Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Asher Marketing Podcast. I'm Anthony Giuliano, and my guest this week is Jill Boggs. Jill, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Anthony. Thanks so much. Appreciate you having me.
Well, thank you for doing it, and it's good to see you. I don't know when the last time is I saw you face-to-face, but we go pretty far back to your days at Trine, and we're going to cover that in just a minute. But first, tell me how things are going in your new position at Visit Fort Wayne. Talk a little bit about what you're doing there and how the 6 months you've been there have gone.
Well, I mentioned to you when I came in, the fire hoses turned it down just a little bit, but everyone's been extremely welcoming, and the board has been very engaged and kind of giving me direction for my first year, which I'm really appreciative of. And the team, I can't say enough about them, and I'm just diving in, learning about my vision of an organization, if you will, like a flow chart of all its moving parts. And I just diving into each section and still learning, but also working on some projects and trying to make some things move.
Well, that's great. And we'll get into that in detail. And you've got some big shoes to fill. Dan O'Connell was there for 30 plus years. Is that right?
33 years.
Wow. Okay.
And I do have to tell you, it was a bit daunting. Even
I can
considering
imagine.
Applying. Dan was a mentor of mine. As you may know, I was the CEO of the Kosciuszko County Convention and Visitors Bureau for several years. So through that and his help and guidance, couple late nights having some beers at a conference, talking shop. I learned a lot from him, and he's built a wonderful organization, and that was also very intriguing for me to come in and protect his legacy, but also carry on. Someone's got to do it.
That's right.
And he's been very gracious and also very helpful.
Well, that's great, and it doesn't surprise me having known Dan for a while. So let's talk about how you got there. So career path. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up, when you started thinking about a career path, and what that looked like at the time. And then we'll talk about whether you stayed on that track or pivoted. So start at the beginning, whatever that means for you.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so I was born in Illinois, but the majority of my years have been in Indiana.
Okay.
My father moved a lot as an HR professional for manufacturing firms, and I went to high school in Alexandria, Indiana, right outside of Muncie.
Okay.
So natural progression was Ball State.
Yep.
And I actually majored in social work.
Okay,
I was going to change the world by being a social worker and helping people, which then at that time, that was a hot thing.
Oh, sure.
So after that, I moved. My parents were in Ohio at the time. They moved from Indiana to Ohio. And I ended up in Kansas City. I worked at you're going to laugh, at a stockbroker's firm.
Really?
With the social work.
So how did you end up there?
Well, I followed a boyfriend there.
Okay.
And Kansas City was wonderful.
Yeah.
I actually got licensed to sell stocks and bonds.
Oh, wow.
More of an executive assistant for a branch manager. A lot of your listeners, and you may remember E.F. Hutton.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worked there. And then I also worked in Atlanta for a while, lived with my sister. Things weren't working out with my boyfriend.
Yep.
So I moved by her, and then my boyfriend and I got back together and back to Indiana.
Oh, wow.
So, and then at that time, you start losing what you really meant to do.
Yeah.
I ended up working for Merrill Lynch here when they were downtown in Fort Wayne.
Okay. So staying on the
Melissa Stout.
I know the name.
Yeah, I worked with her at Merrill Lynch, and because my license was still good for 2 years after leaving Kansas City. Yeah. And And
so how long were you on the sort of financial path?
Oh, wow, now you're really testing me. I would say a good 4 years.
Okay. All right. And was that just always just a job, or was it ever something you said
Never
maybe?
thought of it as a career.
Yeah. Okay.
I think in that age, I just was trying things.
Yeah.
I think that in a way helped me build a good resume. I can actually remember being at the firm I worked in downtown Kansas City when the Challenger explosion happened, seeing it on the ticker tape, Now I've really just dated myself. But so many friends and good times and So you decide that line of work isn't necessarily what you want to do for a career. So how do you pivot out of that? You've got a social work degree, you've got a background in financial world.
how do you pivot out of it, and where do you go from there?
I don't know if I pivoted on purpose.
Okay.
I think that what was starting to happen in those roles in Atlanta and Kansas City is I always ended up moving into management or some level of leadership role. And so when I came to Indiana, I thought, wow, it would be fun. I lived in Angola. It would be fun to work at the state park.
Yep.
So I applied for office manager job there, and I got it.
Okay.
And so I was there 13 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I worked at an attraction, worked in tourism in that way.
All right. So does that lead you then to the Angola Chamber of Commerce role?
It does.
Okay. All right. So so that's where you sort of start in a path that's close to what you're doing now.
Correct. Management, leadership.
Yeah. Okay. So what was that? How long were you at the chamber, and what was that like at the time?
Well, the chamber was, oh my gosh, every one of my jobs I've absolutely loved. I've been very fortunate as that person in their career journey. But I applied. I actually had it out, the ad in the newspaper, and I threw it away, and someone close to me said, got it out of the trash. I said, no, you really should try and apply. So I applied and got it, and there were some, surprises when I started, and the organization was struggling a bit, and, we had 2 staff and several volunteers, and the power of volunteers was staff, board members, committee members. We went from a struggling, ailing nonprofit to Indiana Chamber of the Year within 4 years.
Yeah.
So that lesson I learned there of the power of many, no matter the team, that engagement, we all come together, I think you really can accomplish a lot. So from there, I earned my master's degree in management. And I had called Dr. Brooks at Trine University, who's our largest chamber member, who's always very supportive of the chamber. And I said, hey, who'd you replace in marketing? I need a sponsorship for my annual meeting. And I'd like $5,000. And he started laughing. He said, well, I haven't replaced that person yet. I've done a search. I can't find the right person. You can have your money, but are you interested in the job? And I said, sir, I don't know higher ed marketing. And he said, I had the marketer. I need the manager. I can teach you the marketing. So within a day, I resigned and probably doubled, if not more, my income and started my journey with Trine University. At the time, the department was named Department of Integrated Brand and Marketing. I can't even remember.
Yeah, higher ed for a long
great.
time went out of its way to call itself everything but marketing.
Yes.
It was community relations and it was development and all this other stuff. But now I think they're like, all right, we're marketers, we embrace it. Yeah. So you go into an industry you know virtually nothing about.
Correct.
How long is the learning curve to get higher ed figured out once you get started?
It took a while.
Yeah.
Again, the support of people who want you to be successful. The vice president I reported to was phenomenal. The president had trust in me. They really gave me the tools to learn. They sent me on conferences and so forth. And I did a lot of my own self education in it. There was a team of 3 plus myself.
Okay.
And
It's not a very big team.
No, it
for
isn't.
Higher ed,
Right. When I left in 11 years, we had over 10.
Oh, wow.
Sports information reported to marketing.
Oh, wow.
Remanaged brand across campus. We had a full in-house marketing team. Almost like an agency, if you will.
Yeah, and this is when Trine had just become Trine and changed from Tri-State. Was that fairly recent?
August 1st, 2008.
Okay.
I started in 2001.
Okay.
So, I was on the team to manage that and all the communications, and we worked with the consultants on name change. You just weren't changing from college to university, you're changing the whole name. I'm not in a position to speak on that anymore, but it was a great process, a great team effort, led by the president and everyone. And we had 1 year to get it done.
Yeah.
And the consultants to this day have still called me because I have the big spreadsheet of everything that had to be changed on campus. So you don't think about what everything needs to be done.
Oh, sure. Sure.
It just was a wonderful, wonderful career.
So you're at Trine then for how long altogether?
I think about 11 years.
11 years. Okay. And then you decide to do something different. Tell me a little bit about what precipitated that. Why did you decide to make a change? And where'd you go from there? And what was that like?
Well, while I was in Angola, I got married to my husband, and he worked at Pokagon State Park.
Yep.
And so he got promoted from assistant manager at Pokagon to park manager at Chain Lake State Park.
Aha. Okay.
And so it just was a commute issue.
Sure.
It was a good 50 minutes to the university. I actually had talked to the president about moving to the Fort Wayne Trine campus, moved kind of to the academic side of things for marketing. And I did that for a while, and then I got a phone call, and he said, would you consider coming back to marketing? So I did that for a while, and the commute just, it got long.
Especially in the winter, that would be tough.
Yeah, it was. And him and I had always talked about, I hope he does not mind me sharing this, but him and I had always talked about, mostly me, that when people in any organization, any corporation, when staff or yourself or even higher up you find yourself getting a little, not as positive about your work as you should be, then maybe we wish people would recognize just maybe moving on. It's for the greater good. And I think I was there. So I didn't even have a job before I talked to him, and he was super gracious.
Yeah.
So I stayed on another few months while he found my replacement. He was a great reference for me in my job search. And it was a very great departure, and
sounds like it.
They're so successful. So I'm privileged to have been part of that for a while and really learned a lot of marketing. So when I moved into marketing, but also managing a nonprofit, that was when I had a hard goal for myself at that point in my life, Anthony, was to get into management of a nonprofit again. I knew that I wanted to do that.
So this is when you take the position with the Kosciuszko County CVB, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So for those who, I think most people listening to this will be familiar with Kosciuszko County, but very much a lake community, a big summer community, orthopedic capital of the world. What does that look like from your position then? How do you get settled into that job, and what are some of the challenges and opportunities that you have as you get started there?
Well, at that point, if not even with higher ed, with my changes of management being consistent, but my changes of industry, I had a lot more confidence at that point that I can learn a new industry. They want an executive level, C-level leader. So again, I had the management experience. I now had the marketing experience because visitor bureaus are destination marketing organizations. Yeah. And it was a lot of really diving into the organization, how it's working, listening, what do our stakeholders think of it? Where's our current image? Those things, and certainly getting out in the county and learning all our travel assets. It's a big task to represent a whole county. And so forth. So, but when I went there, also we were having some issues. So it was ground zero again and building it. And I can remember my first month having a conversation with someone, and it was do or die, and we did. So, and it's everyone rallied around things and everything, and we got a list of concerns and just started fixing them. Yeah.
Well, and it's the benefit of coming into an organization with a fresh set of eyes.
Right.
You can listen to those inputs, make sense of, all right, what are the trends here? What's probably true? And how do I prioritize based on that?
Exactly. That was my concern, because now that was at Chain Lake State Park with my husband, I was commuting in somewhere representing a place. I did not live there. And everyone was very gracious and understood that. But I found out later they actually liked someone to come in that was not from the county, where I could actually say that we majority time we promote Warsaw because that's where the most of our assets are. Allen County, we promote Fort Wayne the majority of the time. That's where the majority of our assets are. It does not mean we do not care about the other communities in the counties.
So. And you're neutral at that point.
Correct.
So So how long are you in Kosciuszko County at the CVB then? altogether?
Almost 7 years.
7 years. Okay, so you learn that world pretty well, and then you step into the role you're in now. And it sounded like, I can't remember if this was before we hit record or immediately after, but it sounds like you were a little hesitant to
Sure
put your
was.
name in the ring for the job.
I was, if it's just a whole different level. My budget there was $400,000. Visit Fort Wayne's budget is just under $3 million. To me, accounting's accounting, though. So I was hoping
Well, you have more expenses too.
That wouldn't hurt me in the process. But I had excellent audits and balanced budgets every year. So, but that was daunting. Measuring up to Dan, as we talked about, not that I ever could or would ever strive to. I knew some of the team members. So I got in my head, what would they think about it? Again, they've just been wonderful and gracious. But those are reasons also why I was fortunate enough to know how what a foundation, excellent foundation the organization had, and how well it was positioned in the market for tourism, not to mention Fort Wayne and the phenomenal growth.
Oh, yeah.
And my husband and I, when he's done at the park, we've always wanted to live in Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
So I just got a lot of encouragement from my husband, and, there was a little bit of fear. I'm probably divulging too much here, a little bit of fear of what if you don't get the job and everyone finds out in our industry in the state you applied for another tourism job and didn't get it. Well, we just need to have more confidence and really put our foot forward.
Well, and
that was a valuable lesson for me.
Someone once told me, and I think it's true, that people aren't as interested in us as we think they are.
Exactly, right?
They have
I'm
their own problems.
I'm in my own head.
Yeah,
I felt confident I was a good match on paper.
Yeah.
So someone encouraged me that knew that also, my background. And, we really talk up retention of talent in our region. This was a perfect example of that. Some of the other top candidates were from out of state. So I was thankful for that. And it just kind of, my husband cried when he heard I got it. So a lot of women that are leaders have strong, partners behind them. So that was it in my case.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great. So it seems like you're coming in those position at a really good time. I've lived in Fort Wayne for about 22 years now. And there was a time when there wasn't, from a bringing people in from the outside, right? Because I have family in Massachusetts. When they would come, there was a time when I wasn't quite sure what to do with them for a few days, and now there's too much to do. It's very difficult to do all the things even at the top of your priority list, and it feels like that's on the upswing. But I would also imagine there's things that you get involved in that the average person wouldn't see, some of the athletics events and some of the other things. So talk a little bit about the breadth of responsibility that the CVB has. It's truly about marketing Fort Wayne and Northeast Indiana to the world, but what's the core of that, and where is your focus as an organization?
Sure. Everything we do, every expense we do is marketing and promotions related to showcase Fort Wayne.
Yep.
And reposition ourselves. Our marketing team does a phenomenal job positioning ourselves as a world-class, family-friendly destination.
Yep.
Our sales team, they work to bring in conventions, meetings, conferences, sports tournaments, trade shows. And 2021, that was $7 million impact for 179 events and 248,000 attendees.
Wow.
Now, while we have a sales team, so do the 24 venues that hosted all those attendees, and we all work together to make those numbers, that economic impact work.
Yeah.
And good partnerships in that. And, our visitor visitor services and partner relations, we have very friendly, helpful visitor center. They served in 2021 5,535 in-person visitors, and they fielded over 14,000 phone calls and emails.
Yeah.
And you had brought up something about you had friends visiting, you didn't know what to do. We cannot encourage enough that just because we have visit in front of our name, our resources, our website, our social media, our e-newsletters, our maps, Other print collateral, we have 70,000 visitor guides are for residents also.
Yeah.
Indiana's largest travel market is visiting VFR market, we call it, visiting friends and relatives.
Yeah.
Indiana Tourism Association redid the research, and doesn't matter if you're in the northern third, central, or southern third of Indiana, it's VFR market. We hate to say it, but let's face it, most people fly over Indiana for tourism, but that does not mean we do not have tourists here. We do not have the visitors that make up that economy of the visitor economy you talk about, where it's the meetings, the sports, and so forth.
Well, it's become one of my favorite things because, I'll admit this, and I don't think there's a lot of people from my hometown who listen to this podcast, but being from Massachusetts, and I was once this way myself, and I'm probably kind of still this way. You have a chip on your shoulder, like, what could you do here that you couldn't do in Boston? But it's always really a point of pride for me when people are super surprised at how fun it is and how easy it is to have a good time in Fort Wayne. I'm very biased about our trail system, as you know, because I've served on the board for a number of years. But I continue to look at other communities that tout their trail system, and I haven't found one yet that is as good as ours. And it's those little things. It's the restaurants. It is the downtown Fort Wayne infrastructure. It's the trails that make people say, this is pretty great. I would love to come back again. But they never would have thought to do it on their own. The only reason they're here is to see someone they know.
Right.
Yeah.
Our marketing campaigns, advertising, PR, social media, we have all our sales to promote, but we have the ability to curate all those great things and put it in one package for whether it's residents, visitors, convention goers, but also our businesses, our manufacturers, our corporations in their talent attraction.
Yeah.
We do have relocation packets. So we really try to get that information out that we are a community shared value, a resource for everybody, not just visitors.
Yeah.
But we $741 million a year is spent by 6.5 million visitors.
Wow.
So you can't underestimate that. Right now, I think we're the county's seventh largest industry.
Okay.
And we're number 4 out of 92 counties in the state in visitor spending.
Okay.
So it's significant for Indiana, Fort Wayne and Indiana, but also what it saves you as a resident on taxes is right around the 40 million mark.
Yeah.
So that would be dispersed by a lot of people to make up for. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm one of the oddballs who lives here, but when I have people in from out of town, I do take them to the visitor center.
There you go. Yeah. Souvenirs.
That's right.
People don't realize we even have an online store that people buy stuff for Christmas or we have a lot of great folks come in and buy things that are locals.
Yeah. So tell me about some of the big things you're working on. And obviously, there's some things you probably can't share because they're proprietary. But what are some of the things that are taking up a lot of your time and energy right now? I would assume that one of those is still learning the job and figuring out which end is up because you haven't been there for a year yet. But in addition to that, what are some of the things that are at the top of your to-do list?
Well, the board asks that I focus on the inside of the 4 walls first. Obviously get to know my team, understand their roles, review job descriptions, not to make any big changes. That's not my style. I really ethically value my own personal values. I want to work at an organization where it matches my values.
Yep.
It's a good fit. And one thing that's important is not a lot of change unless it benefits them, unless it helps them have the tools they need to work their magic. I see my role mostly as trying to provide inspiration, giving them that freedom to explore and to work their magic. So projects, they're working on a lot. I had to do at board meeting a 90-day update on our projects, and each department is very active and trying to move us forward and complete things. Myself, looking at policy manual, I've learned every organization should have a policy on when to update the policy manual, right? Because we do that and then kind of forget it.
Sure.
So I'm kind of getting into the management geek things of so forth, but looking at salary surveys, are we where we should be? And we're looking at accreditation, which is a big thing in our U.S. Fort Wayne Visitors Bureau should be accredited.
So tell me a little bit about that. I'm not sure I'm familiar with that.
And I told myself I wasn't going to mention this because now my feet are to the fire. But it's really exciting. It's called Destination Marketing Accreditation Program. It's through an organization nationally and internationally called Destinations International.
Okay.
And we are tax funded. Visitor bureaus are tax funded through the bed tax, innkeeper's tax. And I personally, my value system feel that holds us to a different standard. And so there's 120 standards you need to meet to be accredited with distinction, and we're going after it.
Okay.
One big reason why is I feel we have a great head start under Dan's leadership, Kristen Guthrie's leadership there, as well as some others that are making things happen there. So we're currently doing an inventory of the 120.
Yep.
What do we have? Are they where they need to be by the requirements? Let me give you an example of the easiest standard. Do you have articles of incorporation? Yep. Drop it in the folder, upload it. However, then do you have an advocacy plan, or a contingency business plan? What if you had a disaster in your office? How are you going to operate? Things we all should have, but your certain financials or a governance policy that your organization's committed to governance or a transparency policy. So a lot of things like that help elevate your organization. And, another easy ones, do you have bylaws? You'd probably be surprised. Some may not know where their bylaws are.
So are there other CVBs nearby that have this distinction?
Larger ones.
Okay.
And then throughout the country.
Okay.
We want to be up there with Boston.
Oh, sure.
Miami.
Sure.
And, I can't confirm if Indy does or not. But, but I think Fort Wayne deserves that. And I think that Visit Fort Wayne with all the efforts before me is at that level.
Yeah.
And why not? We all work hard. We want that badge under our email.
Oh, sure.
And I think it'll go a long way in our sales of groups.
Sure.
They see that we're operating at that level.
Yeah.
And you have to maintain those standards.
Yeah.
They may send new ones down as our travel environment and industry changes. There's new requirements. And certainly since COVID and the pandemic, there's new things to pay attention to. So it just kind of keeps us on our toes and, running the way we need to run and operate, being tax funded.
So I'm guessing it's incredibly competitive business. I've had the benefit of going to a lot of like-sized cities, maybe a little larger than Fort Wayne, and they all have good stuff going on. What would you say are Fort Wayne's biggest differentiators, the things that really sell people on, this is a place where I want to spend some time? Is it the family-friendly aspect? Is it the diversity of stuff to do? Is it what would you say are some of the things? And if you're still learning that is fair.
You see me giving you the eye, don't you?
Yeah.
I think it's all of the above. I am still learning.
Yeah.
Kristen would be your ideal person to talk to on that. But again, I know we position ourselves as family friendly.
Yeah.
We have a lot of attractions. We do the Be a Tourist in Your Own Hometown event, which promotes our attractions. That's very family oriented. And we have the dining is impeccable. We were just looking at some research this morning, if I can recall. And food and dining was one of our big factors. People will come from pretty far to come dine here.
Yeah.
And so you have Savor Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
And that's in January for 12 days.
Yep.
And Be a Tourist in Your Own Hometown is September 11th, by the way. I'm just going to throw that in there.
Yeah, getting all the plugs.
Yeah, all the passports are going to be delivered soon and everything. Team's super excited about that, as are our attraction partners. But so, I think it's everything they've done, some in-depth studies that I have to dive into. We have visitor profile research, and you're in marketing, research is very important to us.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And we also have, we can tell who is at the hotels at any given time, that fluctuation of occupancy and everything. So we have a lot of tools that give us that information to direct our marketing strategies and sales strategies, but I'm still learning.
Exactly.
Well,
that's fair.
Exactly our markers. We do outdoor, we do faith-based groups. So the genealogy center is big time. So, yeah, there's so much going on. But
Yeah.
if you have me back again, but although I know Kara's only been on, the only one that's been on twice.
So far. Yeah.
So maybe in a few years.
All right.
Start adding some others.
So talk a little bit about the team you work with. You've got some folks who've been with Visit Fort Wayne for quite some time,
Yes.
really talented folks.
And fingers crossed, they have not quit on me.
Well, good.
We'll see.
Good. So tell me a little bit about the structure and how you seek to lead that team and when you seek to stay out of their way.
Well, first of all, the structure I think was perfect when I came in.
Mm-hmm.
There's administration, so there's myself and operations manager, and then there's marketing and communications. So
Yep.
VP of marketing communications, a marketing communications manager.
Yep.
And we have 2 digital specialists, and then also a coordinator. And they work very well together. And I am in awe what they accomplish. Then we have our sales team,
Yeah.
and there are 4 in there.
Yeah.
We do a lot of services for groups in advance, down to press releases that their conventions are coming. You'd be surprised what we have. So we have a group services manager, director of sales, sports tourism manager,
Yeah.
and then a senior sales manager as well. And then we have visitor partner services. That's our whole the selling of ads of our guides, our visitor center.
Yep.
They have a team of 5, 2 are part-time because during Saturdays on this.
Okay.
So we have a total of 14 employees full-time.
All right. Okay.
And I just asked them to start sharing their reports that they send to me because I look at these and I honestly I know it sounds cliche, but I'm in awe at what they accomplish on their reports. But I think it's important each department sees what the others are working on. You couldn't possibly explain all that in your team meetings.
Well, and it's in any job it gets really easy to work in isolation.
Sure. And we have 2 separate offices. The team does not, that doesn't seem to be an issue at all with the team. But why not share? I said to them, we know we're doing great work. Well, why not let's talk about it and see it? So we put those on the cloud and they can just look at them as they would like. But it's just crazy. And I'm pretty hands off. This was a well-oiled machine before I came on.
Yep.
So I just want to find my role and how I can help them do their thing, how I can be better in the community at advocating for destination development.
Yeah.
Really would like to do a tourism master plan.
Mm-hmm.
What's tourism going to look like in 10, 20 years for Fort Wayne and Allen County?
Yeah.
We need to be able to answer that, and that can help a lot of development because, again, $741 million a year spent on by visitors we cannot deny that.
Oh, sure. Well, and one of the things that you have the ability to say, I don't know because I'm new, another question. I've noticed that recently it looks like Visit Fort Wayne's been doing some influencer marketing, really tapping into those folks who, for a living, just kind of travel and tell their stories. Is that an initiative that you put into motion, or was that one of your team members? How did that get started?
Yes. No, that is marketing. I did not put that into motion. And I'm assuming you mean all the free PR that we get. Yep.
Yeah.
We call that our earned media.
Yep.
And you were going to ask me about our favorite tool. Now, favorite tool plays into that, what I was going to share with you, because I talked with Kristen and we brainstormed this, and we're always looking at new tools, but some of them, what we use, are specific to our industry that would not apply to a lot of your listeners if they're in marketing. So, but one thing that I think especially nonprofits lose sight of is the value of earned media. Mm-hmm. And I do have some numbers here because I thought it was interesting. Last year, we hosted 21 travel writers and bloggers and 17 additional virtually, resulting in 48 articles and more than 65 million media impressions.
Wow.
The photos, goal list, coverage doesn't happen by itself. Mm-hmm. The 6 scenic Midwest road trips for outdoorsy families by familyvacationist.com and USA Today does not happen by itself.
Yeah.
So we'd love organically to have Fort Wayne or Allen County on these lists, but They don't always, and we are actively going after them. Jessa on our team is the one that goes after them and works with them. We just had hosted this year the Midwest Travel Journalists Association, generated a lot of articles, and they're still coming. She shares with us all the time.
I was fortunate enough to present as part of that conference, thanks to your team. And that's, I mean, what better publicity can you get than hosting travel writers in your own city? So that's pretty great. Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, so you've got the traditional earned media. There's also, on social media, I'm seeing more of, the leveraging of visitors' stories, people who are here, who have a really large social media following. Your team is doing a great job of amplifying those stories. And in some cases, it's more credible because it's someone just like me telling the story of visiting Fort Wayne with their family or friends, and, makes it sound really great.
Yeah, they're on the ball. They listen, to Instagram, go into more video coverage in their algorithm. So we're covering more of our conventions we go to on LinkedIn. So the team's marketing has its fingers in every part of our organization. So they support sales, they support the visitor center, they support me and what I need when I get a phone call from a town who's looking to attract a certain developer that's related to the visitor industry. It's just never ending. So we are known in our industry as destination marketing organizations, and even more so being thought of as destination marketing and management organizations, because we can help developers such as the cities, looking for information that we can help them with and be an advocate of destination development. So
all right. Well, I'm going to pivot to a couple quick questions, things that could generate a concise answer, but they don't have to. First has to do with career path. What's something you've learned? You've worked in different industries. You have tried a variety of different career paths and had great success in many of them. What's the one thing you've learned that you think is most important for people to know about career success and fulfillment?
I would say attack your work ethically. Learn as much as you can, all while maintaining a healthy respect for failure.
Yeah.
That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
But attack, learn everything, try different things.
Yeah. Well, and the sum of that is you're never done. You're never done learning.
Never done. Yeah. Lean in, learn at every stage.
Yeah. All right. So second question, what is something that you think is either underappreciated about your organization? Maybe it's something that's a myth about your organization that you want to set right. What's something you think people should know about Visit Fort Wayne or about the destination industry altogether?
I think I mentioned it a little bit, but I can just tell you a little bit more, is the idea that we only serve visitors. We also serve residents, and we need residents. And we have a great tool. It's visitfortwayne.com. Host them here.
Okay.
And what that is we have a tool where if you're hosting your friends or relatives, you can go there and we can help you build an itinerary with all the information, what you would like to do. But more importantly, on the sales side of things, Anthony, do you know of any conferences or conventions you go to that you could help us host here?
Oh, sure.
There's ag tourism opportunities to get conferences and conventions here. These folks really spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
They don't just stay in downtown hotels or sports tournaments that our residents' teams travel to.
Sure.
Why not host in Fort Wayne?
Oh, yeah.
We will do the work. We will contact them. But there's actually a place on our website, on that page, where you can enter your information and the name of your group that we can try and sell to hold their event here. It could be weddings, it could be family reunions, and we have resources for everybody.
And that's host them here.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's great. Okay. So you may have already answered this one. If you have, I'll throw you a curveball, a good curveball. But what is the one tool that you want to recommend to people? Is it earned media, or did you want to speak to something else?
I don't have a one tool.
Okay. All right.
We brainstormed, and it's just changing for us, or it's so focused on our industry, I don't know that it would be applicable.
Sure.
We do have something new we are working on that helps us track our visitors.
Yeah. Well, let's hear about it.
I can have Kristen on again.
Okay. All right. So
We haven't even released to our board yet.
So the cliffhanger is we'll have Kristen back and we'll learn a little more
as a
about
great
that.
new tool. So, yeah.
All right. So here's my curveball question. You have been on this job for 6 months. Is there anything you've learned about in terms of a destination, or could be multiple, that you didn't know much about before that you have a new appreciation for now that you've been on the job? Anything specific you can think of?
I would say nothing really specific, Anthony. I have been really blessed with meeting a lot of different people and going to a lot of different attractions, or taking hotel tours, seeing the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I was supposed to go to the zoo yesterday. We had to cancel, but behind the scenes there. So being able to do that just being a resident or a visitor of those attractions that I wouldn't see otherwise, but it's the passion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere I go, but there's a lot of pride in Fort Wayne, and that's why earned media is so important to us.
Sure.
It really builds pride also among our residents and our stakeholders, where they live, where they work, and in placemaking efforts, to know we're all worth that. But that's probably it mostly.
And to see all the hard work that goes into making it seem effortless on the front end, I'm sure is something.
Yeah. It's hard. It's an interesting industry, and I've fallen in love with it. You know, so super blessed to be on that management track and get nonprofit management and that business sense of economic and community development through the chamber, and then the marketing at the university, because someone saw something in me and took a chance, and that actually helped me propel me into this industry. So you never know, where life's going to take you.
Well, now you're in a position to pass that on. You can elevate the good people who work for you and give them a shot.
Yeah, I just want to do the best I can for them and for the organization, for sure.
Well, it sounds like you're off to a great start. 6
Thanks.
months in. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Anthony.
Well, Jill, thank you. Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it. It's been fun catching up and hearing what you're up to in the new position. And say hello to all my friends at Visit Fort Wayne.
I
Get
sure
back
will.
to the office.
Yeah, they think the world of you. So.
Well, that is absolutely mutual. Well, thanks again, and thanks to everyone who took the opportunity to listen to this episode of the Asher Marketing Podcast. We'll be back next week with another great guest, and we hope you join us then.